us 2 years ago at our January briefing, shout out for that, with the London Mission Collective, where she shared the Talking Jesus report, but specific stats that they have on London. You may not know that that existed, but they do, and they're really helpful, and I've sent them to many people. So she is going to share with us this afternoon kind of those highlights to help us to understand our city better. So I will pass this on to Rachel.
Amazing, thank you. So we are going to do an absolute whistle-stop tour of the top Talking Jesus stats on London. And if you want more, you can come and chat to me afterwards. Why? Because it frames the openness and the extraordinariness of London. We're unique. Of course we are. So, firstly, what's happening when we look at religion in London? Have you ever read any of the reports? We are the religious centre of the UK. So religion is part of our language. It's something that we talk about more readily than anywhere else. About 45% of London would say that they are Christian. Obviously, we've got Northern Ireland as a bit of an outlier who does things, again, quite differently. But we've got the biggest percentage of the Muslim population here in London. Only 4% of London would say that they are agnostic. And none of the above is also lower here at 16%. The only other place that's as low as that is in Northern Ireland. So we have less people who are not of faith than the rest of the UK. Isn't that interesting, even before we go further? And that's partly the gift of the ethnic diversity of London. We are a mixed space and place. So if you are in London, only it's around 50% of London would be white. Outside of London, it's 83%. So that mix of ethnic diversity and also the religious mix means that we are, I was going to call us peculiar, but in the correct sense of that word. But that is the London mix. What about those, though, we haven't got, have you got 45% of your population in church on Sunday? No. Okay. No, none of us have. How could we possibly measure what's happening with active and practicing Christians? If you remember, if you've heard us talk about this again, we created a measure for a practicing Christian. We looked at being part of a worshipping community, number one. We still didn't feel they were all that active, though, so we looked at whether they prayed regularly and whether they read their Bibles. Bible reading is the thing that really stood out for whether someone's a practicing Christian. And we discovered that 9% of London would come in under this category. That is higher than the rest of the UK. Let me just say that again. We have more practicing Christians than elsewhere in the UK. We have a bigger team in London for mission and evangelism than anywhere else in the country. Can I just say that again? We have a bigger team for mission and evangelism in London than anywhere else in the country. So if we can do something in London, because we have a committed team of followers of Jesus Christ who are part of worshipping communities and are praying and reading their Bibles. That is exciting. We have 2 then mission fields. We have 36% of London that is non-practicing Christians, and we've got 55% who are non-Christians. So we're going to specifically have a bit more of a look at that. One of the staggering stats in Talking Jesus is around the resurrection of Jesus. Pause for a moment. How many people, when you look down a tube train, do you estimate believe that Jesus got out of the grave and was alive? When you sit on your tube, how many people do you think on that tube would believe that Jesus rose from the dead? Are you ready? Let's have a look. So, 24% of London believe that Jesus rose from the dead, literally word for word as it says in the Bible. I'm just going to say that again. 24% of London believe that Jesus rose from the dead, literally word for word as it says in the Bible. Your tube journey just got really interesting, didn't it? I did a little check. I was coming on the Jubilee line, and I was looking up and down going, well, I wonder which ones of you... It's because we can't tell. We do a really good job of melding into the background, don't we? And looking like every other person on the tube train. We can't tell who else believes in the resurrection. And 28% of London believe to some degree. Now, they are people who said they believe in the resurrection of Jesus, but they've got some wobble factor in their belief. That's still this huge proportion of London who believe. It is only 34% of London who do not. Can I just say that again? It's only 34% of London who do not believe in the resurrection of Jesus. Minority. Yes, the minority do not believe. Does that not do your head in a little bit? Are you now beginning to wonder if I've just, was everyone who did the survey on some kind of, this is a proper weighted data survey. London is an extraordinary, unique place that we get the call to do. What could we do at Easter, people? If a quarter of our capital in this country believes that Jesus rose from the dead, what could we do at London? And a further 28% are certainly with us with a bit of a wobble. Does that not change the mission? Does not bring it near? This is staggering. It's only 34% who do not believe in the resurrection of Jesus. We have such an unprecedented opportunity in London that is unique to the rest of the country. The next slide helps us understand that mission field. 57% of those non-Christians in London say that they know someone like you or me who's a practicing Christian. That's before we've started any outreach project. It's before we've even got out of bed in the morning. That 57% of the Londoners who are not a Christian know us. Well, that's exciting, isn't it? They know us really well. We're actually mostly friend. Friend is the biggest category. And what happens when we open our mouths and talk about our faith? This is what happens. 44% of the non-Christians in London who've had a conversation with one of us want to know more about Jesus. 44% of the non-Christians in London want to know more about Jesus. That is higher than anywhere else in the country. There are more people who want to know about Jesus in London than anywhere else. Does anyone here want to help them find Jesus? Yeah. Yes. Let's look at the next slide. 42% of the non-Christians in London said that they would love to encounter or experience Jesus. We did not ask them about spirituality. We didn't ask them if they wanted prayer. We asked about encountering Jesus. Isn't that amazing? So this job of mission, people, it is not way over there. Your tube train just got exciting on the way home. Think how many people are sitting on that tube. They're sitting there wanting to encounter Jesus. But one of the things that the enemy has done is he's stolen our confidence and he's made us believe that nobody out there is interested. And this is proven statistics. There is a whole world of people out there in London, in your street, in my street, where I live, where you live, on the tube, on the bus, absolutely everywhere. Our job is to find the open people. Don't worry about the others. Jesus can sort them out. We just have a job with our churches to find the open people. And if we can help our churches to see these statistics, I guarantee you their confidence level will rise, their risk-taking will get greater, and they will want to come on a mission journey with you. Because they will realise that they have been lied to. And we have got the biggest opportunity ever. Where would non-Christians go to find out about the Christian faith? Number one is Google. This is London here, dark blue. But look at the number 2. Anybody excited about the Bible in this room? Now, when you read the Bible, what happens to you? Who speaks to you whenever you read the Bible? Yeah, he just speaks to us. What happens when a non-Christian reads the Bible? Yeah, brilliant. So we have the most amazing tool ever given to us for evangelism. I am now a fanatical Bible woman. This is the best resource you will ever be able to give to anybody for evangelism, is the Bible. Because as they read the very words of Jesus, he will meet them. So all we've got to do is get people to have the confidence to give this to somebody, and he will meet them. And I could give you numerous stories. There was a guy sitting on the sort of edge of our church. I mean, he was sitting in the sort of alcovey bit on the outside sketching, and I was walking past in a bit of a rush, running late, rather late for the evening service. And I simply stopped and said, oh, hello, you know what? You're kind of almost in the church. Did you know the church is actually open at the moment and you could actually come in? Oh, he said, that's interesting. I'm just finishing. Well, when you finish your drawing, why don't you come in? And he did. He came around the corner. He came up the steps. I had a chat. He'd never been in church in his life. He came in, and then you really want them to come into the worship time because they might have an amazing experience. We'd missed worship, so he walked into the sermon. I'm like, okay. So we sat down, and even better than that, it was a sermon on evangelism. I'm like, Lord. Anyway, so he sat through a sermon on evangelism. It was a great sermon on evangelism by our youth worker because he explained the gospel, hurrah, to a guy who'd never been in church before in his life. And as he walked out, he actually had to say he wasn't a Londoner. He was from Australia. He was a young Australian. He said, I'm going to find a church when I go back. And I gave him this to read on his long plane journey home. And Jesus can meet him. But how simple. But it's these stats that power and help me to think, oh, I'll just ask that person or just ask that person. Think about how if everybody brought somebody to church next week on their way. It's actually viable from these stats. If everybody asked one person, 44% of them, actually a bit less, almost a quarter of those people might rock up. What if everybody in your church asked one person to church on their way to church on Sunday and a quarter of those people rocked up? Well, that'd be exciting, wouldn't it? Not a big mission initiative, just really simple things that we could do. And the London project is looking at mission next year. We want to know if you would like all the churches who are involved in that amazing mission of doing mission together and basically getting the word of God into as many hands as possible. We think we could do this as a London gospel. So we'll whip out the pictures in here that are beautiful, but stick in a whole pile of other beautiful pictures that are London. Who wouldn't want a London gospel? Anyone like some of those? And then, yes, I just got a great story from a guy, he's Cumbrian, and he had 1,000 of these, and he put them on a table in August. They've got rid of them all. And people came to Alpha, and they had the most amazing conversations. And all they did was stand on the street with a pile of Bibles. So Andy and I thought that might be quite a simple thing. We'll create a London gospel, and then you could use that in any means you wish to, because we really believe in the power of this and the fact that London is the most open part of the UK to finding out or experiencing Jesus.